Everyone, it's Peter from Daydream Nation, and today I've got a very special guest. You may know him from the Contrarians and multiple other shows on YouTube, Mr. Alex Winter. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, my man. I appreciate this.
Fantastic. And Alex has got a new YouTube channel, check it out, called Tainted Decibels. We're going to talk about Prince. And Prince put out an album in 1984 called 1985, correction, Around the World in a Day. This was the follow-up to the Behemoth Purple Rain. So we are going to talk about the album, the performances, the revolution, Prince songs, just everything called Prince. So Alex, you're a lifelong fan of Prince like myself. What was your first impressions of this album in the day?
Well, so this was a big year for me. 1985, I turned 16. I got my first turntable and I got a job. So now I have money to buy records, but I was a heavy metal kid. But I also was an MTV kid, right? So I was probably 12 when that started, and I would watch every video and I listened to Top 40. And so I listened and loved all kinds of music. I just bought heavy metal. We're certainly aware of Prince from 1999, Little Red Corvette, into Purple Rain. Love those songs. But again, 1985, I get a turntable. This album comes out, and I think I'm going to break the mold and I'm going to buy a non-heavy metal record. And I'm glad I did. And that really set me down the path of a lifelong Prince fan. And this is a very different album for Prince, right? This was not Purple Rain, and I'll get into that with some comments from people in the industry. But it didn't bother me. I loved everything I heard. I just couldn't believe it. One person was making this many different styles of music, and it really helped me from that point forward branch out and get into all types of music. So this is a very pivotal album for me in that it set me on the path of being a Prince fan and of being a music lover of all genres.
Fantastic. I bought this in the day, and I have to say, and I've got to admit, I was slightly disappointed because Purple Rain was so fantastic. I loved it. And to this day, I will put my hand on my heart and it's in my top 10 albums of all time. I love that album because it's an emotional roller coaster. Watch the show I did with Michael Adano. You'll see my feelings on that. This album was so completely the opposite end. Sonically, I found it confusing, intriguing, mysterious. But it was an album that, I grew to love over multiple plays. It's not an album that you can hear the first time and go, I like it. There are some pop confectionery hits that hit you, between the eyes and you go, yep, that's a hit. That's got a hook. But there's some experimental stuff. There's a lot going. It's easily the most experimental album that Prince did in the 80s. And I think it's held up really well. And I think it's aged like, it's a cliche, like a fine red wine. It's got better over time. And I am so happy that they've done a reissue. And that's the CD. I think it came out in December. There you go. And it's got the first side is the main track's all remastered. I think they've got an extended version of America. And then side 2 is just all B-sides and extended 12 inches, and it's great. It holds up really well. It's as fresh as a daisy.
Yeah, so, and I will say, I was wondering, I loved it all over the years, so that wasn't an issue. But I played this incessantly since we talked about doing this show, to the point that you should be over it. And I found that I wasn't. I found that I loved it even after all these plays. So, and to your point, Alan Leeds, famous music exec and manager and writer, had a great line on this and called it the anti-Purple Rain. And I think that's very, very true. And before we get into the songs, if I could just lay down some groundwork to explain what was going on. So this was being worked on while Purple Rain was still in motion. Purple Rain was finished in March of 84, but he had already started, and I'll get into that when we get to the tracks, doing work on this album. So, and this was released 2 weeks after the Purple Rain tour ended. So this was very, very quick. But Prince says he thinks it's the smartest thing that he did was to record this right after Purple Rain. And that way the two albums were completely different. And that's very daring and very, as a fan of Miles Davis, which Prince was, something he would do. Miles kept changing bands and sounds and didn't care what anybody else thought, right? Now, the detriment can be, what does your audience think? He could have easily done Thriller and Bad, which to me are simpatico, or do Madonna's Like a Virgin and True Blue, right? And just kind of parlay off of that success. And as we already outlined, this is as far removed from what he had with Purple Rain than you could imagine. So Purple Rain now has sold 25 million copies. There was about 17 million that sold during the release. Around the World in a Day has totaled up to this point only 5 million. So that's a huge drop. And part of that is because of the sound had changed so radically. The Purple Rain crowd was not ready for this.
Yeah, you're spot on there. But I do disagree. I think that there are still remnants of Purple Rain on this album. I think this album's got three elements. I think it's got psychedelia. So you could go back to the Beatles. You could go back to a lot of the late 60s psych. Sly and the Family Stone, some of the psychedelic soul, funk workings, like There's a Riot Going On. James Brown, early 70s. And then you've got the experimental stuff. And then you've got Purple Rain. So there are still some tracks on this album. To me, I could fit on Purple Rain. Like Pop Life, we'll talk about that. I think that could fit on Purple Rain. So I don't think he's quite given up the Purple Rain. There are some nuggets there. He's going, okay, we'll give you a little bit of a trail, to bring the Purple Rain folk in. But we're going to make you work harder because there are some tracks there that are experimental. There's some balladry. And there are some songs where you have to close your eyes and you've got to listen to the lyrics. Sorry about that, folks, but the 80s crowd, we're going to make you work.
And not just the lyrics, the sounds too. I mean, this is a headphones album, which you would say that doesn't sound like Prince, but there's even some prog elements. I mean, this is an album to sit and absorb and not kind of casually play and have in the background, for sure.
Yeah. Why don't we get into the songs, and that'll be a great way to navigate our feelings and, the whole vibe of this album. So the album starts off with Around the World in the Day, and to me, this is like an Eastern mysticism type of song. The sound that really comes clanging out of the headphones is the finger cymbals.
Yeah.
To me. So I could close my eyes and think, oh, the revolution are in Morocco. They're going through a bazaar. They're going through. So it's exploring a lot of world music, and I think this is a wonderful sort of. It's sort of like the Magical Mystery Tour in the Beatles, isn't it? Sets up the tone of the whole album, and this is what it's all about. What do you think of this track?
Well, so you bring a good point about the instruments and also the revolution. And what we have to say is the revolution is only in full force on two songs here. There are members on other songs, but Prince is doing a lot of this without the revolution at this point. And this particular song, very interesting origin, and this is what kind of set things in motion. So David Coleman, who is Lisa Coleman's brother, is gifted by Prince 2 days in the studio. He had worked with Prince. He played cello on Purple Rain. And this is in June. And he comes up with this song. This was the origin of this was his. Prince hears it and says, no, that's got to be mine. Now, he does some reworking of it. He brings in Wendy and Lisa, and then their brothers, David, as I mentioned, and also Susanna, which was at one point Prince's fiance. So they're all working on this track. And as you mentioned, the finger cymbals, which come up further down the road in other Prince music. There's, and if I'm saying these things right, oud, which is a string instrument, darbuka, which is a drum. So yes, in my notes, I even put magical, mystical opening. What is this, right? If you're coming off of Purple Rain, and now this is the first track you hear, which let's also remember that when this album came out, it was a month before any singles were released. Prince did not want a bunch of press, and he didn't want the singles. He wanted you to buy this album, listen to it, and absorb it. So again, very daring to do when you could have easily done Purple Rain 2. He didn't do that. So yes, on this song, instrumentation is great. Prince's vocals are all over the place. It's a very cool track to me to start this album. And it also makes sense that when Prince heard this is the direction then he took the rest of the album in. So a great opener to me. And, lyrically, he says, a government of love and music, boundless in its unifying power, a nation of alms, the production, sharing ideas, a shower of flowers. So lyrically, you're entering different territory right now.
100% love it. It's a cracker of an opener, and it really sets up the template for the rest of the album. You're on a journey, and I gave you a visual of Morocco. You could probably just look at the album cover and just imagine if it was animation and came alive and it's all swirling. That would be a good guide. Paisley Park, 1, 2. I talk about a revolution.
Sure.
I get that feel. I get this lo-fi garage rock. Apologies for the singing there, but this is where it's kind of stripping it back a little bit in the sound. You know what I mean? I like this song. It's got that garagey rock sort of sound, but it's still got a bit of pop sensibility. And as the song goes on, it gets more ornamental. It gets a little bit more Baroque, and it brings a much more fuller song. But I just thought it was really interesting where he does that really stripped down lo-fi opening. And that's another thing. When I first heard this song in the day, that put me off guard. And that's what I like about this album. It puts you off guard. He makes decisions that you don't expect. What do you think?
It makes decisions you don't expect on purpose too. This is Prince. He has a line in the song much later in his career, The Max, where he says, tell me to walk a straight line, I'll put on crooked shoes, right? This is Prince in a nutshell. So this song was done in September of 84. This is weird in that this was the first single released to UK, Europe, Australia, not Raspberry Beret, which would be the first single in the States. So why he decided to do that, again, a weird start for me. And it did okay. Top 40 in all those countries, 18 in the UK, got to 38 in Australia, but not right out of the gate box office business like it could have been. So on this is Novi Novak on violin. Again, the Melvoin sisters are back, and Lisa on backing vocals. And so this is all about Paisley Park, which is in his mind at this point, right? It had yet to become a record label or become his fortress of solitude. This was a place where he thought just everyone could go and be themselves and get along. So that vibe, I think, comes across in this. Great phrasing on his part. The backing vocals are subtle, but man, do they enhance that. And I think that's a trait throughout this album. Also some layered vocals, but he also does that falsetto thing and the scream too. So again, within this context of a song that is 4 minutes and 41 seconds, he's taking you on quite a journey. So finger cymbals again. I love this. Lyric I like how this is: admission is easy. Just say you believe and come to this place in your heart. Paisley Park is your heart. So again, he's just saying we're all welcome. Let's get along. Positivity, again, a theme that comes later on. So to me, 2 songs, very, very strong, but I still go back to, if you're expecting Purple Rain, you aren't quite there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you agree with what I was saying about how it starts all garage rock and sort of builds up and then becomes more bodied as it goes along?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's several songs on here that do that. They kind of, they start subtly and then they turn into something else. So
yeah,
in all my notes, I keep saying the journey. This album really is a journey because of all the different sounds and textures and tones. It's headphones. You need headphones.
Yeah. I would describe this song in one word: whimsy.
Sure.
Absolutely. Now, Condition of the Heart. I want to pick your brains on this one because I think this is really unusual that they have put this particular song, which demands that you close your eyes and you listen to it and listen to the lyrics, as number 3. Because In the song track listing, it's before the Stone Cold masterpiece, which we'll talk about, Raspberry Beret, which is the big hit off the album. I think it's deliberate that they have put this song, which I think Prince has got a lot of emotional investment, at number 3. It's very unusual in an album. And remember, the albums in the 80s were very top heavy with hits. It was always front loaded. It was so heavy in side 1, you could barely turn the vinyl over for side 2 to put this particular song. So this is a ballad. It demands a list. It's 6 minutes and 48 seconds. It stretches it out. It's got Prince doing the vocal gymnastics, the emotional, right in the gut. It demands you really a lot of the listener. And, you know, to be track free, I think this is quite an unusual sort of decision to make. What do you think?
100%. But again, that's Prince. And wait till we get to the song after Raspberry Beret, right? You want to talk about being bookend by polar opposites. But I think that's what he's doing. He's setting this up. And you said it perfectly. It's an epic ballad. Now, this one was recorded in October of 84. So now we're getting towards the end of the completion of this project. And all Prince, no revolution. This is him definitely pouring his soul out. There's a nod to Wendy where he mentions Clara Bow. If anybody remembers Clara Bow, is a silent movie star. You know, many people watching this will probably scratch their head who that is, but think Scarlett Johansson of the silent movie era if you want. But also this is directed at Susanna. And there's kettle drum. There's faint kettle drum at the end that represents his heartbeat. So very personal song. And I would say liken it to Purple Rain, which was a very personal song, but that is a ballad for the masses. This is a ballad for Prince fans. This is not an immediate sound of the Purple Rain. This is lush vocals. You feel every word. There's some layered vocals as well. There's whispers of his. There's, again, ear candy that he is just telling you how he feels, telling her how he feels about her. And I think it's a brilliant ballad. I love it.
Would you put it at track 3? I am not sure about that. I think that's really it's an early punt. It's really putting it right up in the track listing. I mean, putting it that high in the track listing in this album, where you've got a song that comes out of the box, which gives you the template of what the sound is around the world in a day. Then you've got Paisley Park, which is whimsy, and then go into this deep emotional ballad at number 3. That is a really huge ask of the listener. I would have personally put it maybe track 5, a little bit lower in the order. What about you?
And I'll go back to what Prince said, and he wants you to listen to the whole album. So yeah, the smart thing is track 1, you're hitting with the Raspberry Beret, and now we love this album. That's not who Prince is, and sometimes to his detriment. I'll say that, that he did some things because he could be stubborn and just wanted to, and it hurt him. Again, I go back to, it's just weird that Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Prince are all born the same year, and they all have huge success within that 83, 85 period, right? 86. And they did very calculated things. Prince did not. Prince bucked the system. And so would this benefit from a different track order? I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but that's not what Prince wanted. So I accept what Prince says. Here's my order of things.
Yeah. It's one of his best ballads. I think his vocals on this album are fantastic. He's got this sublime falsetto. He's trying different vocal tones, outerworldly. I think he's on fire. So don't get me wrong. It's one of his greatest ballads, and it's just emotional. All right, Alex, Raspberry Beret is a masterpiece. Please discuss. I think this is a pop gold.
That's the 12-inch single.
Yep.
It's not just pop gold. This is pop perfection. You want to know how to write a pop song? This is the playbook. I mean, it's 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Every note, every lyric, every word, everything is perfect. So this was another one this is now September. So again, in that sweet spot when he was working on this, this was the first single in the United States. It didn't come out in the UK Europe and Australia until July. So again, this weird mix he's doing of things. In the US, it got to number 2. Duran Duran, View to a Kill, kept it from being a number 1 song. You would think if you were saying what are Prince's number 1 hits on Billboard, you would have said Raspberry Beret. Sorry, Duran Duran screwed that up. So very interesting with this is this goes back to 1982, right? So this is back before 1999 album came out, and it didn't go anywhere. And so he reworked it for this album, and it fits this album the way we worked it, in that it's a little bit, 60s pop sensibilities. There's a little psychedelia to it. The background vocals, again, I say carry this. I mean, they're subtle, but they're so good. And lyrically, he's you said whimsy before, right? There's some whimsical nature here. There's some playful nature here. This is about seduction, but he does it very tactfully, unlike the next song we'll talk about with metaphors. But, I love the line, built like she was, she had the nerve to ask me if I planned to do her any harm. I mean, this is, Prince in a nutshell. And also he says, overcast days never turn me on, but something about the clouds and her mixed. Just love the lyrics. I love the direction he's going in with all this stuff. The extended version, I will say, though, is amazing and has harmonic in it. There are 3 songs in Prince's canon: Kiss, Little Red Corvette, and this. That the extended version, or I should say the full-length version, they didn't chop down for a single edit, transport it to another level. So if you haven't heard the extended version of this, you should. But again, pop perfection to me.
What he said. I got nothing to add. Well done. Other than I love the outro, and when I was a young boy, teenager, when the outro, I used to turn the volume up on the headphones. I just love how it trails out with all those whimsical kind of instruments. It's great, and it's one of those songs that there are noises and sounds in between the instruments, or it's so layered. No, it's pop perfection.
And so just quickly on that, with the B side of this in the US was She's Always in My Hair. This is a song that anybody else would have released as a single. It would have been a number 1 hit. He makes it a B side. That's Prince.
I was going to mention that during the show. That is easily one of his best B-sides and could easily make the cut on this album. This album, the length is, what is it? My math. It's about, 35 minutes, 38. Could have been, just added on. It's a great song. It's a great song. Tambourine. It's a deep cut. I love it. I think this is heavy funk. This is hard hitting. This could have been in the Purple Rain era. I can imagine one of his side projects The Time could have covered this. I love it. I know there's double entendres galore, which you will talk about, but sonically, this really gets me going. I feel like I want to dance around in the living room when I hear this. What do you think?
This is the song that sold me when I bought this album in 1985. We're coming off of now a ballad and a pop song. And he hit you in the face with 2 minutes and 46 seconds of Prince chaos. This is a crazy song. The vocals are outrageous. And this is all Prince now too. And this was September of 84. He recorded this. So this is the 3rd time now on this album. Now I'm going to say, this sounds like nothing else in his discography. I don't know if this sounds like anything anybody else has ever recorded. This song is an all-time deep track favorite of mine, if not a favorite Prince song, period. Hits included. It's almost heavy metal in nature in how heavy and aggressive it gets. It's, to me, an unhinged version of When Doves Cry. And When Doves Cry, had that territory where he's screaming, the guitar is aggressive, and this takes that to another level. And this is sort of in response to Darling Nikki and Tipper Gore and the PMRC, right? Because Prince ends up on the Filthy 15 list with 2 songs, not just one. He wrote Sugar Walls for Sheena Easton. So he has 2 songs along the likes of Wasp and Judas Priest and Merciful Fate and Prince is on this list. So he has a line in here. What's it like inside your tambourine? Oh my God, there I go. Falling in love with a face in a magazine, a nod to darling Nikki. Alone, all alone by myself, me and I play my tambourine, and you can decide what the tambourine is. I won't say what it is, but it certainly is connected to Prince's body.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think this sonically, it's a deep, deep cut. And I think it's one of my favorite tracks on this album. I love it. I think it's a great way to finish side one.
And do you agree? I mean, what name another song that sounds like that? Period. It's unique.
It's probably in the vault. We don't know. We don't know. There's so much in the vault, Alex. Bring
Yeah,
it out. Warners, open the vault.
trust me. I
Please.
know. I
Please.
have a lot of it unofficially, but
I
I want it
know.
official. Yeah.
Yeah, bring it out. Bring it out. We want to hear it. It's too slow. But no, I love this track. We've got to talk about Prince's guitar playing. He's got this wonderful fuzzy Jimi Hendrix tone, and even in the pop songs, I love it where he does these little lines. It dives in, it dives out, it comes in, it comes out. It doesn't outstay its welcome, but he's there. And that was just enough guitar edge for us metalheads in the 80s to go, I like Prince. He may be pop, but he's got something going on. So all the way through this album, he brings out the guitar and just does these little lines and just come in, come out. It's wonderful.
And let's remember, he was a big fan of Led Zeppelin. So it's not like rock was not in his background. It absolutely was.
Yeah, absolute versatility. America. So the next two songs in this album are social observation. So Prince is a very canny lyricist. I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. Not all of his lyrics were sex and religion, and there is this tension between sex and religion in this album. But number 6 and number 7, is social commentary, America and pop life. So we'll start off with America. What do you think of this song?
Brilliant. And there's a caveat. That's not the 3-minute and 40-second version on the album, which is great. That is the full-length version that is over 21 minutes long and was released as an extended mix, and it's on this deluxe set that we talked about. And it's absolutely brilliant. And this is the full revolution now on this, and they are out and out jamming. This was released as a single in the third and the final for the US, and only got to Billboard 46. People just by this point were sort of losing interest. But in my notes, I put down, this is James Brown with P-Funk with Gil Scott-Heron. So you're getting that funk, but you are getting that political commentary, that social commentary, as he was known for, right? He did this on Controversy. There's some of this on 1999. Certainly Sign of the Times, we're going to see this. So yes, as you said, not all sex and love, and he's was always tuned into what was going on in the world, and certainly in this country, and also always had his eye on nuclear war. And that's mentioned again where he says, Jimmy, nothing, never went to school. They made him pledge allegiance. He said it wasn't cool. Nothing made Jimmy proud. Now Jimmy lives on a mushroom cloud. I love this. I love the song. And again, I urge anybody to listen to that 20-minute jam. You think 20 minutes, oh, that's outrageous and it's too long. It would have been longer. They ran out of tape. You don't get tired of that. That groove that they laid down shows that the revolution at that time was as tight as any band, period.
My favorite backing band of all time. People talk about E Street Band and some of the other great backing bands, but the Revolution, they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in that special award for backing bands. I think easily that's best Prince's backing band out of all the lineups. I love it.
And that is the 12-inch single there. So
Yep. I think they've got a bit of James Brown. James Brown was like that, wasn't he? When he got on a groove, he just couldn't get out of it. And sometimes it'd just take up the whole side of an album. And that's what I also imagine.
James Brown and Prince are the same too. You screw up a note, you're getting a fine, right? So they both ran a tight ship.
Yeah, I think that they got in the groove, they just stayed in it, and I've heard the 20-minute version, maybe a little bit long for me, but look, you've got to keep the folks on the dance floor, and it's they're going to be shaking their ass, and if you're on a good thing, just keep it going. So
And it's still not as long as the 26-minute song, The War, that he did, which is also another thing where he just ran and grooved. And I can see that. Sure. Look, as I'm playing this over and over again, and my mother lives with us, and she kept hearing this over and over. And she's like, aren't you tired of that yet? And I said, no. But I could see,
yeah,
20 minutes, maybe too much for some.
absolutely. Pop Life. I think this is another. This would be in my top 3 song on the album. I think this is great and a very deserved top 10 hit. Should have been actually higher. I think this is another piece of Prince genius. What do you think of this song?
Yeah. I like it. I don't love it. I will say my least favorite off of this album, and of his hits, one of my least favorite. Now, that's still a high bar. I love everything Prince, but this just never grabbed me. I mean, it was a hit in the U.S. It got to number 7. Elsewhere, though, not so much. UK 60, and in Australia, I don't know what you guys are doing, but 67 on the charts, right? So this is, again, I think people wanting Purple Rain and they didn't get it. So after Raspberry Ray, the singles were just, uh, you know, not great. This was the first song recorded for this album. This was completed in March of '84. So again, Purple Rain's still being worked on, and here this song is. But I think you mentioned earlier in the show, right? This could have. Is this the song you said could have been on Purple Rain? I think you did.
Yes, it could have been on Purple
Yeah.
Rain. Easily
So that
slot
makes
in.
sense. That makes sense that it came at this point, right? So he's still working on Purple Rain. Uh, Again, I like it. At this important, this is the first song that Sheila E. Works on. So more of that to come. And again, not that I don't like it. I just think the other stuff on the album to me is more interesting. But this is a cool kind of look at fame and stardom and the trials and tribulations of that. And the line I like is, "What you putting in your nose, is that where all your money goes?" And Morris Day once said, maybe the song is about him. I don't know if that's true or not. But so lyrically, I like the content, and I don't dislike the song. I just like others on this better.
Well, Alex, like you, I've been flogging this album religiously over the last couple of weeks ahead of this show, and this is the song that's in my head out of all of them. And it's in my head right now. I wish it would get out of my head, but it is ear candy. It's got a hook. And what I like about this song, there's a little bit of discordance. I don't know whether it's the chord, the key it's in. It's slightly just a little bit off, a little bit discordant, and to me, that's quite adventurous. The way the song is arranged, and I think because it's very stripped back comparative to the other songs on the album, it makes it quite interesting. And I think this is like a precursor to Sign of the Times, where he's really stripped back, and it's just him and a drum machine and a little bit of guitar. So I think this is I love it how he's going down this socially observant stream, and I think the sonics of this song are experimental. He's stripping it back, but it's got this sort of discordance that makes it really interesting. So sorry, I like this a little bit better than you, but that's cool.
No, that's fine. But
Cool.
keep in mind, so we said this was the first song, and then as we mentioned, "Around the World in a Day" was the one that pushed him in a direction. So you can see how those two songs kind of set the pace for the rest of the album. It certainly flows. If he doesn't have either of those, this may be a much different record.
Absolutely. Now, the final 2 tracks on the official album, we're not going to talk about B-sides and remixes, is The Ladder and Temptation. Now, I put them as a suite, and I call this the Sex and Religion suite. So there's been this ongoing topic within Prince's world about the temptations of flesh versus religion. He's religious, yet he explores this hyper erotic sexual side of his personality. I mean, look at those early 80s albums. Woo. You know, he's really pushing it out there. So there's been this interesting sort of juxtaposition, paradox, you know, where he's exploring, you know, heaven and hell, so to speak. So the latter is, it's kind of, it's a bit of a one note idea. I don't think it's my favorite song on the album because it kind of goes on one melody line, and you can imagine and visualize it's about somebody going to heaven or ascending and going up the ladder, but it just takes so long to get there. It's one of those kind of soul revival, evangelical type sounding songs, but to me, it kind of bogs down a little bit. What do you think of this song?
The opposite of that. And so one thing we mentioned, we showed the album cover, and there is, you know, the ladder is sort of on the gatefold there. So a lot of the song titles are reflected on this album cover, and the ladder being one. This is, again, Full Revolution. This is recorded in October. And it also has Eddie Mendenfield on saxophone, who came from Sheila E's band. So you're really getting a collaborative effort. And the opening little string arrangement, that came from a song called Our Destiny, which goes back to the Purple Rain Day. So this is, again, Prince kind of never letting anything go, going back and repurposing or reusing or freshening up ideas. But you're absolutely right. This is Prince as a preacher, and he does this many times throughout his career. And sometimes it can be overbearing. I don't find that the case on this. I like this. I like the spoken word. He starts out, it kind of sets the mood. Then the singing kicks in. And let's go back on what we've mentioned a few times now, his vocals. So underrated in how he uses that voice and all of the different tones and textures he has. To me, it's very much like John Coltrane. Saxophone was an extension of him. That was part of him. This is the same with Prince. This voice is his instrument in more ways than just a normal singer has a singing voice. The way he can use it and manipulate it and change it. And I think he does that on this. There's crazy screams. There's soaring falsetto. There's some soulful vocals. And yes, the message is, take it what you want. Is he ascending the ladder to heaven, spiritual enlightenment, inner peace? You can say what you want about where it might take you, but it's all a positive message from him. He says, everybody's looking for the ladder. Everybody wants salvation of the soul. The steps you take are no easy road, but the reward is great for those who want to go. So a little different than you in that this doesn't did too long for me. I like this, and I like the way it goes into the next song.
Yeah, I think maybe melodically it's not as adventurous. It's a little bit narrow, and it's just following a very sort of confined musical territory. It's a message song, so maybe it's deliberately done in a narrow confine, so people do focus on the lyrics. I don't know. It's just yeah. I find this one to be the one that I gravitate to the least on the album. But Temptation, wow, that's whack. That is so wacky. This is where he's at his full-on John Coltrane avant-garde. If John Coltrane was doing a pop song or getting into the world of pop and rock, this would be it. I love it. And this is where it's the devil coming out. So he's climbed the ladder, and then he realizes maybe, I miss the temptations of the flesh. So it's this whole yin and yang, black and white, heaven and hell. What do you think of this song?
Love it. Love it as a closing. Now, this is an 8-minute song, right? And this is the final song. So recorded in December, and then but kind of reworked. December 6th, he does a full band version and sound check, much more up tempo. Doesn't like it. So December 7th, he goes back in, just himself and now Eric on sax, and redoes this into this version that we have. And then the dialogue that happens at the end of the song is at the 24th, Christmas Eve of 84. And then that's it. The album is done. crazy is right. Uh, Slinky, sexy. The sax is kind of burlesque club. Sex drenched vocals for sure. Screams, noises coming out of him. I mean, it's unhinged, and then the voice of whether it's God or his inner soul, whatever you want to say it is, reminiscent of what we're going to hear with Bob George coming up on the Black album, right? That kind of tone. But this is Prince for sure, and his tormented soul. And is it love? Is it lust? You know, what wins out? And he finally and then says, "Love is more important than sex." Now I understand. So I think this is a perfect way to cap off this journey, and this has been a journey on this album. And in a song that I keep saying this, unlike anything else in his catalog, and kind of proggy. I mean, I could see Vandergraaf Generator or something doing a song of this nature, just with the the combative nature of it and aggressive nature of it. I mean, this is again going back to why this album threw so many people, because if you just wanted Prince in the hits, which you got on Purple Rain, this takes time to comprehend and understand. And a lot of people just want the immediacy and not the deep dive of what Prince wanted you to get out of this record.
Yeah, look, the way that I can compare it to modern times is that Radiohead with OK Computer, and then they come out with Kid A. It's that
Yeah.
jump. Love it. I love it. It's so avant-garde. And if I'm right, Prince didn't come to Australia till 1993, and but we saw this tour on a show. We had a music show called Countdown, and I think they were playing a full Prince concert from this day, 1985. Now, if my memory is correct, this was a centerpiece of the show. They actually did play Temptation live.
Mm.
Am I right?
I don't know about that. And I there's a great website called Prince Vault, which does a deep dive in all of this stuff. I did make notes about live songs, but I didn't go over that.
We have covered the album. Do you want to have a quick word about the B-sides?
You know, Girl is okay. It originated as Boy. It was going to be a Vanity Six song, and then that fell apart and reworked it. It's a B-side. I'll say that. And then Hello was the song that kind of talked about the flack he took from not participating with the group of We Are the World. It's an okay track. So the B-sides on this are, as a Prince fan, it's great to have them. The only one that really I hone in on is She's Always in My Hair, which is a Stone Cold masterpiece.
I think so. She's Always in My Hair would have been definitely in it. Hello, what do you think of that song?
It's okay. It's a fun song. You know, I don't think I would have liked it on that album. It's good as a B-side. Again, I can listen to it, but I'm indifferent. It's really She's Always in My Hair, and more importantly, the full-length versions of the songs, I would say much more worth exploring than the B-sides. But you get all of that on the remastered deluxe edition that came out. So
Absolutely. Well, there was only a certain amount of length on vinyl, unfortunately.
yeah.
Otherwise, it would have. If this came out in the CD age, you would have heard the real version. I think the lengthy version. So, Alex, what's your final words on this album, and where do you think it sits in the discography of Prince?
My final words are that I still love this as much as I did the day I first listened to it. I've often said that on a certain day, this could be my favorite album. And it's one of those, if you're a hardcore Prince fan and you have all the albums and the bootlegs and all the stuff like I do, others say that as well. You know, it's not Purple Rain. It's not Sign of the Times. I get that. It just holds a special place to me. It's sort of like, you know, we talk about AC/DC, Back in Black, are you Highway to Hell? Well, I'm Power Age, right? So I'm one of those guys. I just think it's a fantastic album that unfortunately didn't get enough love back then. It's sort of forgotten about unless you're in the Prince circles outside of Raspberry Beret. And I just urge people to have an open mind and open ears and to kind of revisit this now or listen to it for the first time, maybe going into it now that we've explained things, I think, quite well, what you're getting. You're not getting the hits. You're getting Prince, the artist who is chasing his muse and not commercial success and sales.
I'll go one step further, and I'd say it's almost a masterpiece. I think it's a gem. I think people need to rediscover it. It was in the shadows of Purple Rain. So Purple Rain was just loomed right over Prince his whole career, because he's a triple threat, wasn't he? Singer, actor, performer, personality. He had the world at his feet, and he does this album, which is intriguing, confusing, in a good way, mysterious, and people didn't know how to handle it. I mean, it sold 2 million. It went to number one in America, but over time, it has been forgotten. And thankfully, Warner's have, opened the vault and put a remaster out, and we just hope that there's more. But I think Prince had one of the best runs of any artist in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
I love all his 80s material.
Yeah. I mean, he rebounded from this, right? We have Parade, we have Sign of the Times, Batman soundtrack, another one that I'll go to bat for. I love. Yes, his output in the 80s from a creative standpoint, second to none.
All right. We're booking a show. Let's talk Batman, because I love that album.
I love it.
And that needs love.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Often frowned on, unfortunately, and it should not be. It's fantastic, but let's save that for another day.
Absolutely. Let's save it. Alex, first time on the show. You did well, mate. You can have a beer now. You can relax. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Alex Winter, you can see him on the Contrarians, and you can also see him on Tainted Decibels, a new YouTube channel. Check it out. And please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Tell us what you think of this particular Prince album. We love reading your comments. But one thing's for sure, there's going to be more shows cranked out in 2026 and beyond on Rock Daydream Nation. Once more, Alex, love having you on the show. We'll see you soon, and all the best, and cheers. All the best. See ya.